Any stragglers come in, then that's fine. Are you just dive in, or?
Yeah, I'll just be here just to pass the mic around.
Okay. So lots of room up front. I'd say come up front, but it's a small room and I'll wander around. So first off, I'm Jim Barsh. I lead all the efforts of NextPacks in the Americas. Kind of launched things a while ago here, about 5 years ago. How many of you are already working with us? Okay, a few, so the rest of you aren't. So basically what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about us, distribution, just in general, a little bit about not so much the big channels other than a quick mention, and then go into working with some of the other channels which are out there, and there are a lot. Sound good? So for those of you who already know us and work with us, bear with me for the first part. So we've been providing connectivity since 2006. So this is kind of an exciting year, 15-year anniversary. So we've done a lot of connections, moved a lot of reservations. And we are in Europe, North America, and Asia. Our headquarters is in the Netherlands. And the guy that laid the first line of code, he's our CTO, our CEO, the founder, everybody's still there. Total, we've got about 60 people in the company, so not super huge. And the fun part of this, 25 of them are engineers and product people. So a lot spent on the technology side of what we do. Philosophy with us, and kind of going from there, we range in customers. Our very largest customer is Novasol in Europe with 50,000 properties, down to customers that have 2 properties. So we really scan that whole group, which has come into our philosophy is we're really good at technology, we're really good at automation, and that you as the property manager should not have to work in multiple systems. Can't always accomplish that, but that's what our goal is. You work in one system, it's going to make you the most efficient, that's the source of truth, and that's where we want to try and do things. LiveRes has had a journey to get where we are today, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Total global basis, we have over 1 million units on the platform, counting vacation rental and hotel. About 600,000 of those are vacation rental. So got quite a few, and I think that's good. We're working with all the major channels. A little over 100 channels that we connect with currently. Obviously, you have the big 4. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. With, I think, Booking, Airbnb, most of these guys, we have the most inventory on them of any company on the globe. So we do quite a bit. I want to talk a little bit about what is full service or managed distribution. Because you've got different type of connections which are out there. And one of the things that we really work towards is, again, we're really good at technology, really good at running your business. So we take care of everything. We make sure it's as efficient as possible. We're able to run, or you're running your business and we're doing the tech. We have dedicated account managers. We actually have a few people in the audience. We have Catherine. She has been our first account manager we hired in the US. She actually lives in Boise. Michael, here in the front, is our operations manager. And then we have account managers from the East Coast, Midwest, West, California. And we're working with you all the time. We look at that as part of your team. We're there to help you be successful. Support group. Everything we do is trying to make things as accurate and efficient as possible. We're there every day answering questions, excuse me, helping with what's going wrong or with what's going right. We try to make sure nothing goes on a channel without all the checkboxes being made. Again, we're 100% focused on connectivity. Love our partners at LiveRes, but guess what? I never have to worry about keeping an accounting system up. I don't have to worry about many of these other things. I just worry about connectivity. Hours, Monday to Friday, East to Western, a little bit about that. Our account managers, their job, and part of our model is we're not a monthly subscription fee. We are a pay-for-performance model. So if we never produce a booking or you're not being successful with bookings, we're not either. So it's in our best interest to help you be successful, and that's really where the account managers come in. Working with you on strategies, content, what are the channels you should be going on? How can we help build the basement, the business? The other one is, which is pretty big, if you're trying to reach out to a channel and find out if something's not working correctly or why isn't this happening or whatever, guess what? I have on Instant Chat, Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, TripAdvisor, Home2Go. And so our ability to talk to their frontline support, and in most cases their 2-tier support, or their account management, is better than none. And so that's where a lot of times we can step in and help for any number of reasons. And of course, the one yesterday was brought up that I can't help with, and that's the accounting on Booking.com and getting them to respond. That's the one area that never works. On an operational basis, really to build your channel, your properties on all channels. We're doing that for you. We're able to build things very quickly. Our biggest accomplishment, this was a press release by Booking.com, we built 45,000 properties in one day on Booking.com, vacation rentals. So we want to make sure they're going to go up, they're going to be accurate. If something's wrong, we're going to work on it until it gets fixed. Again, direct support. We also use AI to help with photo tagging, ways to improve your content. When Netflix came out as a big deal, nobody had that as an amenity anywhere. So we used AI to go out, look at websites, look at the content, and find who had Netflix, and then we would tag your properties with that. Increase content scores by 2 to 3 points. So different things that we do along that line. No properties are allowed to go live without having the minimum content reached on that. Now, this may mean you have 40 photos and there has to be 6 photos of high quality. So guess what? Would we push it with 6 high quality photos? Well, you would to get it up and live, but we're going to come back and say, hey, you've got another 34 photos which don't meet the requirements. You need to reshoot or you need to bring in better photography if you really want to maximize what's happening on that channel. Configuring inventory for optimal conversion. LiveRes only has single unit inventory capabilities. Everything's at that key level. Many people, though, are going to have better conversion on a channel if you're configured as a cluster or a unit type. So when we go to set you up on a channel, we look at that and say, what is the best way for you to convert on that channel? And then based on that, we can configure your inventory to do that. Doesn't matter if it's a hotel style, a grouping, or individual key level. So we do that with everything. I'm not going to run through all the features, but we can basically do a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to know more about that, come talk to me later. There are a few updates I want to talk about, though, because this has been brought up in some other sessions. Early days, with the connection with LiveRes, they couldn't send us taxes, they couldn't send fees, they couldn't send a fair amount of information. And so that had to be configured in our system manually. Well, over the past year, year and a half, LiveRes has moved forward. They've launched a whole lot of new connectivity, APIs, and different things to where we can now consume your taxes and fees automatically. So if you want to manage those only in LiveRes, you don't need to come to our system. We can do that. And that really makes things a heck of a lot more efficient. Okay? Second one that we're going to talk about is Lynbrook. I know many people are using Lynbrook. They're switching to Lynbrook. Our integration with them will be, it's actually done now. It's going into testing the latter part of this week and early next. And this is very exciting. It's a good company, and it will allow us to send that credit card to Lynbrook, get a token back, send that into LiveRes, and you'll be able to charge credit cards, refund, do everything within LiveRes. No longer would you need to go out to VRP to do anything. So I personally am super, super excited about this one, and that'll be in production here in the next week to 2 weeks. New booking API. Again, the old way that things had to come in, moving to the new booking API. So this should be rolled out fully into production within the next week to 2 weeks. Testing is going on right now. If you're using that taxes and fees API, tax authority, when that booking comes in, it will automatically split out the taxes, send it through to LifeTrust. Everything will map through automatically, as will your fees. So that, again, makes things really efficient for working. You don't have to come to our system anymore. You don't have to recalculate bookings when they come through. You cancel in LiveRes, it will shoot it upstream to us, or we shoot downstream based on the channel. So 3 very exciting things with these connections, and we'll make things a heck of a lot more efficient. Taxes and fees, it's been out for almost a year. Many of our partners have converted to that. The other 2 coming out very shortly. So sorry, let me grab a drink here real quick. So over the years, I'll come back 4 years when we started working with LiveRes, and we launched things really 2017. People worked with Airbnb, a little bit with Vrbo, but hardly anybody else. And there was a real negativity about distribution. That has really changed over the past few years, and I know Amber is very pro distribution. Well, why? What does that mean? As a vacation rental manager, we need owners. Owners want revenue. How do we get more revenue? It's through direct bookings. It's going to be through various channels. And so that is, I mean, at the end of the day, is your website a distribution channel? It is. If you take a phone call, that's a channel. So you really need to look at that. And how do we make that happen? Well, you never have enough time. You have competing priorities. Automation is king. You know, all those good things. We're trying to fill rooms, have the best RevPAR that we can. And so that's where really using some of the channels comes in. What's the right mix? Some people want 100% direct bookings. If you can fill your rooms that way, do it. That would be the most efficient. Reality, in today's world, that's not really going to happen. So what are you going to look at? What is your distribution mix that you want? And how are you going to cover those expenses? Now, I work with a lot of property managers. And those which really have a strategy and they take distribution as an approach of customer acquisition. You know, use a channel, get that customer, should be yours for life. They should not book back through that channel. Frankly, if they are and they're coming to your place, you're not doing your job. Okay, now I'd make more money if it went back through the channel, but really it is that you should be doing it. Balance on the expense side. Reality is in today's world, everybody marks up their prices to cover commissions of the channels, other fees, costs, different things like that. It's expected. So look at what's going to happen there. All right. Final thing is decide who to work with. What is their reach? What is their niche that they're looking at? What is their model? Are you the merchant of record? Is the channel? You know, what benefits do they bring to you? You may be surprised. There may be more that you're not seeing. But one thing to keep in mind is you're going to be subject to their playbook. Everybody has different rules. Everybody has different policies. And the bigger the OTA, the more you're going to march to their drum, their beat, whatever the case may be. And then you have aspects of what are the mechanics? You know, what is the best way to work with them? Manual or extranet, this is what I get rid of. You know, for you to be able to be out there on 3, 4 channels when you have more than a couple properties, you run out of bandwidth, right? You don't have the time to do it. You wind up not being able to keep their extranets updated. Your rates, your inventory, all of that can get out of sync, and then we have double bookings. We have bookings with the incorrect costs. So that's where you really need to come into what is connected. And this is what we're trying to do. What LiveRes has been working on for a long time. 2 biggest channels in the US right now, Vrbo and Airbnb, no surprise. After that, it's Booking.com. Those are the 3 largest channels in the United States. And the only way to effectively work with these as a vacation rental manager, in my opinion, is through connectivity. If you're still doing it manually, you're losing. Yeah, you really are. So I hope nobody in the room is doing that, or if you are, you're looking at getting connected. Okay? A lot will depend, this second bullet here, you know, what is the functionality of your channel manager and how that connection runs? How stable is it? What are the functions you can do? How quickly can people respond to new APIs that are coming out? A lot of different things go into that. All right, let's talk about the channels real quick. The big 4, or is it 3? As mentioned, Vrbo, Airbnb, Booking.com, they make up almost 90% of vacation rental distribution through channels, through OTAs in the United States. So that's a huge chunk. Expedia, massive in the hotel world, but they're not doing the best job on vacation rentals. They actually suspended working on things last April and have not signed new agreements or onboarded vacation rentals. They fired their team, they're reconstituting their team, they're bringing things back, which makes us very excited because again, we can now start to auto-build those properties, auto-synchronize your content and along with that. So when it comes to vacation rentals right now, I kind of say there's the 3 big. And then you kind of move into some other areas, and I'm going to just bump through these pretty quick. The one thing I'll kind of state to this, they have the massive reach. They have the billboard effect. How many people find your property there and then come book you directly? It's a percentage. It's not a huge amount. The amount of hundreds of millions of dollars they spend on marketing will help get eyeballs on your properties. Okay? And I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of eyeballs a day are out there. They're in control. How many remember what Airbnb did April of last year when they went ahead and just unilaterally refunded everybody? Didn't care about what the property manager thought. I had property managers that dropped in total just in the US probably 8,000 to 9,000 properties from Airbnb when they did that. In Europe, we had over 100,000 properties removed from Airbnb within a couple days because they did that. Are they your partner or not? They move a lot of business, they book a lot of people, you kind of have to work with them, but do you want to have everything there? And that kind of ties into the next set, and really what it was, beyond the big four. So I've taken a little while to get here. Hopefully that's been a little bit helpful, or at least something to help. Other channels. Right now we connect to over 100 channels. Right now we have over 60 channels writing to our APIs. And you start to think about that, you say, how can all these channels succeed? Why would they all be out there? Why would I even want to consider them? Well, think about it. When you go talk to your financial planner, do they want you to put all of your investment in one item, one stock, two stocks maybe? You want to be diversified. If something happens, like it did with Airbnb last year, or what happened with Expedia, you want to have a little bit out there which is different. You want to de-risk a little bit, okay? Our largest client in the US, very successful, growing a lot. His philosophy is 50% direct business, 50% through OTAs, and diversify as much as possible. And he really looks for not only the big guys, but he's on a lot of niche channels. And the reason that he does is he has a cost of customer acquisition, but many of those customers, if they're coming from Europe, if they're coming from South America, or if they're a hardcore skier and they love Angel Fire, or wherever it may be, it's great. Take it from a channel that's in Europe, bring that in, and they're going to book with me every time. So he really likes that, and I see more and more property managers doing that. So de-risk any single channel. Customers you're not going to get every day. How many of you have heard of Yonder? Okay, they are super focused on the outdoor back to nature experience. High-end guests, big ADRs on it, and I'll talk a little bit more on some of these in a minute. Optimal guests. Do you guys have a profile or persona of what your perfect guest is? Where can you find them? A lot of people which are luxury, that tends to be a category. You have a lot of people which don't like the Airbnb guest versus the Vrbo guest. You have somebody which is a luxury guest. There's a lot of different. You can have somebody that's really into the activities, the back to nature, the urban. So how can you find that guest that really is optimal for your property? And then how do you capture them and bring them back again and again and again? Booking characteristics. You have, and I'm sure all of you know, what is the average length of stay? What is your revenue per night based on where the people are coming? What is the average of that from Airbnb, Booking, Expedia? Of those four channels, what we see across everything, Vrbo is the highest, Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia. One channel we've rolled out recently, Homes and Villas by Marriott, is 2.5x what a Vrbo booking is in value. The nature of the guest which is coming in, they're very high end, a higher luxury client, if you will, and it's going to be very different from somebody else. So what is that characteristic of the guest that's coming in, and how is that going to be from maintaining your properties, cleaning your properties, late night parties, getting all the stuff that goes on, or trashing the property, which we all do not want. Billboard effect, again, you're going to see this multiple times, and I can't emphasize this enough. People who are searching, and they can get your name, and they may want to go to your website and book direct because the perception is that they can get a better price, and usually they can. Sometimes they can't. I always find that crazy, but sometimes they typically will. Airbnb really keeps you from talking to that guest until they've already booked. Vrbo is pretty much the same. Now they may recognize and get your brand out there a little bit. Even Booking.com has changed, where they will develop their characteristics, their profile, and then below that you can have your logo, your information, a description of your company. So they've changed a lot recently. But when you get into these niche channels, they have a value proposition which is typically very different. They want to bring that guest, and for instance, we have a partner in the back we're just launching. Their goal is to get out of the way. Let's bring the guest, let's book the guest, but let's have you do all the communication, everything around that. So what is that billboard effect? Considerations. Why do you want to work with them? Okay, am I going to get one booking a year, or am I going to get 2 bookings a month, whatever it may be? Well, if it's easy to get on, if it's a click of a button, it's easy to sign up with them, why wouldn't you be? It's pretty easy in most cases. Why wouldn't you want to work with them? Are they going to bring a guest to you that you really wouldn't want? Are you competing in peak season, how you think you can already fill those rooms and you don't need them? May be the case. But if it's a 3-week stay versus 5 4-night stays, or whatever the math comes out to, what would you rather have? So look at some of those characteristics. Level of effort to onboard. The most difficult channel to onboard to is Expedia, followed by Booking.com. I would say Airbnb and Vrbo being the easiest, in my opinion. Ops manager may disagree with me. But most of the other channels we work with are incredibly easy. It's a click of a button. And your properties are becoming available for them to pull down with all of your content, rates, availability, and everything else. It goes very, very fast. Yeah, let's keep going on what we've got here. There we go. What are the policies? As I mentioned earlier, your big four, you're really picking a policy from them. And that's what they're going to enforce, and in most cases, they ignore your policy. Most of the smaller channels we have, they adopt your policies for cancellations, for your payment parameters, and things like that, and you're put in control. It's a decision if you need to cancel that guest, not a decision of the channel. If something needs to happen, you are in control. So you can shift some of that to be more, aligned with what you're trying to do. What is the ongoing operational effort of working with them? Some of the channels can become very difficult, others are very easy. Most of our niche channels, once that guest is booked, you are in control, period. So that's one of the things we like about some of the other channels. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these. So Google Vacation Rentals. We have over 300,000 properties on Google Vacation Rentals. And we get a handful of bookings a week. Why is that? Well, Google Vacation Rentals is still a beta product from Google. They constantly change things. They do not have a lot of entry points. They don't charge anything right now. Do we think this will move up into that slide of the big four or the big five? We do. It's just once they get it figured out and then they hit the gas. So that's what we're looking at there. Homes and villas. For a brand new channel, we're seeing more bookings come out of them faster than any other channel. They do have requirements. If you kind of want to work with them and qualify, I highly, highly recommend it because this is one of the channels which is just rocking it in my opinion. With LiveRes, you have to go through a security review with Marriott before they will allow you to push the properties to them. LiveRes is going through that right now. Once that box is checked, then we can start to push partners there. I think there's 80 LiveRes partners in line right now to go onto Homes and Villas through us. So I'm really looking for that to get ready to go. Home to Go, they're here. That's a direct connection through LiveList. It's been a good partner. They're growing well. You can access them through LiveList or through us. And I recommend these guys. They do well. Holiday. How many of you have ever heard of Holiday? They're the fourth largest booking channel for vacation rentals on the globe. They book that many rooms. They were primarily out of Europe. They've expanded into the US. And we're seeing very nice growth and traction out of Holiday. Incredibly easy to onboard too. This is one of those, once you sign up with them, you go to their portal, you complete their agreement, let us know, and we enable and off they go. So one of those I would highly recommend you consider. Wimstay, focused on the last minute guest. They do not book anybody more than 2 weeks out. So we're looking at that way to fill the last room. Trip.com, this is C-Trip, largest OTA in China and Asia Pacific. Do you really think you're going to get a lot of guests from there? Right now, we're getting almost 100 bookings a day from people in the US booking on C-Trip, traveling in the US. It's not from people in APAC traveling within APAC, inter-US. Next one you see here is Agoda, another one that originated out of Asia. It's one of the largest in APAC. They're selective in the US where they're at. There's only 10 areas right now that you can be on Agoda. But you can go on Agoda and shop for like hotels and other things in the US, and almost all the time you will get a better price because of the way they structure things. Now, they are also owned by Booking.com, so there is some cross-feed of inventory there. Trivago, don't need to talk about that. MetaSearch, Next Trip, these are folks that focus on the travel agent market. So if you want to get out, I think they have about 120,000 travel agents on their platform. So that's a way to reach there. Some of these others I won't dive into much. Listing channels. We provide connectivity to these guys. Find Rentals, FloridaRentals.com, FloridaRentalsByOwner.com, Smoky Mountain by Owner, and then, Florida Rentals by Owners. They charge a subscription fee. I don't charge you anything because there's not bookings being produced, right? So obviously I have an agreement that works with them. But if you want to list on any of these channels and pay that subscription fee, you get the leads, they book on your website. I have a lot of partners that do very well on these channels. So that's something to think about as well. Coming soon, I mentioned that we have over 60 channels in development right now where they're writing to us. These are some of the key ones that are out right now. Vacate My Way. Heidi, raise your hand. One of our newest partners, they are going live next week. They've got a great business model and team. I'm very excited. Sometimes you meet a team and you go, these guys are going to be very, very successful. This is one of them. And they've got a good model. If you want to stop by, Heidi's camping out over near our booth and chat with her. If you're in a ski market, ski.com, largest tour operator in the ski industry in the US. They do Europe, they do Japan as well. And if you're in their area, you should certainly have a conversation. If you're not working with them currently, have the conversation. If you are working with them currently, we can now start to automate your inventory and everything around that. At Ease, another one I'm very excited about. This was founded by an ex-Marine officer who would go on temporary duty, and he started booking vacation rentals. But the rules of the Department of Defense wouldn't allow him to get reimbursed for a vacation rental. So that really pissed him off, and he started working with the DoD to get vacation rentals approved. He's done that. So now, with At Ease, you can tap into active duty personnel traveling on temporary duty, or active military, or DoD, period, or retirees through him. That is his market. And so if you're trying to tap into that, if you live near military bases or DoD facilities, great channel to be looking at. And they're writing to us right now. Hopper, who's heard of Hopper? Couple people, okay? It's all online, it's an app, it's on your phone. Their target is the Millennium Group. They are doing, within about 3 to 4 years, a couple billion a year in a hotel. They've gone into air, they've gone into car rental, and now they're coming into vacation rentals. Immense success with what they've done. I think they will be very successful in the vacation rental market, particularly when you're tapping into that millennials, 20s, 30s age. They're used to booking always on their phone. Really a cool one to look. Go Lightly, very interesting channel. This is run by females for women. And they have requirements that either the host has to be a woman or there has to be women on your team as a company. And it's really geared around that safety factor of being comfortable. That's what they're targeting. Snowbird Company, monthly rentals, Route Res, Golf Now. I'm not going to go through all these. Hotel beds, I will mention them. Who's heard of hotel beds? Okay, where are you at? Where's your properties?
I'm in Smoky Mountains, so I don't use hotel beds.
Okay, but you know who they are. Hotel beds is what's traditionally called a bed bank. So they contract with supply, brings it onto their platform, and then they are selling to the large tour operators around the globe. TUI out of Europe, they're the largest. Thomas Cook, At Leisure Group, Flight Center, American Airlines Vacations, and the list goes on and on. And I don't remember how many tens of billions of dollars a year they do, but if you're in a market that draws Europeans, this is a huge one to work with, particularly if you're in the Florida areas, the Orlandos, Las Vegas, Seattle areas, Miami, a lot of the different ones. So this is a huge, huge opportunity. Fab Stays, they are the LGBTQ marketplace. So they're launching with us. Zumper is geared around corporate housing. And then Getaway Go-Go is another, which is more of the last minute. So these are all going to launch within the next couple weeks. Some of them I'm incredibly excited about. Now I want to ask your opinion. So I've just showed you a whole bunch of these channels, second tier channels. Some of those you may not be working with as much. If we had call it a all-inclusive agreement, where if we were to meet your pricing always, your rules and what you need, that you would agree for us to simply put you on that channel. So you take Hopper, you take Despegar, you take any of these out there, and one of the challenges they have is coming out and negotiating and putting a contract in place with hundreds and hundreds of property managers. So one of the things that we are going to be launching is an all-inclusive agreement where you would say, yes, NextPax, you're fine to put me on the channels. Here's any restrictions I have. I always want, if my rate's $100 a night, I need to have $100 a night back. You have to follow my policies, payments and deposits. I have to be the merchant of record, or it's fine if the channel's the merchant of record. We're not going to get between the money again. We never ever do that, right? What is your opinion? Raise your hands, thoughts. We'd love some feedback. Who would adopt that? Who wouldn't adopt that?
I would,
Michael, cool.
because I don't want any more employees.
Again, this is where we can help, because I know the power of these channels. I know what can be done, and I know that, for instance, I talked about hotel beds. They will start working with people down to a certain level, but when we get down to property managers who have 10, 15, maybe 20 properties, they just don't have the bandwidth to go that deep. So it will be, people that have more inventory. And this is where, and Hopper, very similar situation. If we know what your needs are and you're fine, we could say, okay, I have these 50 property managers, here's the requirements, they can go on there, and we'd send you notifications, say, hey Michael, you're on Hopper now. Hey Michael, you are on this channel. So you would know it, we'd identify that when it comes through to you, but we'll always be within the boundaries that you would set. Attractive, not attractive. Got Michael? Got to think about it? Okay. The why, I guess I already covered that, didn't I? Channels to add. We're always looking at various channels. One of them that's been in discussion for a number of years, and I have a little bit of, I won't say misgivings, but every single channel we operate with is full content, meaning I can build your properties. I synchronize not only your rates and availability, but your photos, your descriptions, everything is being done literally daily with all these channels. Intopia is rates, availability, and booking only, so you still have to manually build your content on their system. However, they're the largest tour operator system that is used by ski resorts, many of the golf resorts, divisions of tourism, water parks, and different things like that. I don't know where all you guys are located, but this is one that I pretty much made the decision to move forward with them. Zillow, everybody knows who Zillow is. They're actually moving into short-term rentals, being able to get it on their platform. Interest? Maybe. If you have to go do an individual contract with them, maybe not. But this kind of comes back to that universal contract where we would be able to say, yes, we can push this over to Zillow. Here's what it's going to be. Glamping. How many of you are in a market that this could be interesting to you? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Other channels. We're always looking. We're always receptive. So if you have channels that you're interested in, feel free to email me. I'm the one that typically reaches out and talks to people. And we'll go take a look. Some of them, super hard to get. What is it? Hey, Mr. B&B, I've been trying for 3 years to get these guys responsive, and they are not responsive, but I'll try. And that's one of the things that we're always looking at is what are the channels, which are the ones which are going to do well, which have those niches that would be important to you. So any ideas or thoughts on that, let me know. So how am I doing on time? I don't think we're going to take the full hour. I'm actually surprised we've gotten this long. So I will share this with whoever would like, and Rhea, I'm assuming we're going to make some of this available to people afterwards. Yes? Okay. So I've put together a very high level on some of the niche channels or the second tiers. Very, very high level, right? And so you should be able to access this. But just real quick, what is their focus? Who's the merchant of record? Some of them I can provide what the commission ranges or the costs. Others I can't. Rather than go through every single one of these right now, this can become available where I could email it to you if you give me your card. Let me see if there's any that I would want to talk to right now, specifically on this list. I think I already covered pretty much these guys. No, well, one here, Plum Guide. Another one that we're seeing a lot of success out of. They are a highly curated approach to what they're working with and very selective. However, there is great traction with these guys. They have a very high-end customer. You tend to see a lot of good results out of them, not only from the dollar figure, but in staying at your facilities. So it's one of those that I would also take a look at. RootRez, I didn't mention them earlier, but if you go on to Salt Lake City's, Visit Salt Lake City site and you want to book right through there, RootRez is powering that for Salt Lake City. Sundance Film Festival. If you go book through the Sundance Film Festival, you're actually booking with RootRez. And so they're the technology behind many of the festivals, many of the divisions of tourism in different areas like that. And so a lot of times you may not think about that, but you may be in a market that's hosting a festival which is actually being operated by RootRez or the platform behind RootRez. So if you got somebody, I'm pulling this, I don't know if they do, but say the Telluride bike races and everything they do there, that might be on RootRez. You may not have been able to participate, or if you were, it was by a call and request. This could get you in there automatically. So some of these are ones you're not really aware of, or you probably wouldn't know. Sojourn, I didn't talk about them. Again, this is super easy to onboard to, and they focus on the corporate travel market. So your massive companies like BCD, Carlson Vaughan Lee, some of these really big ones, that's their market. They also work with corporate housing. They have contracts and work with Google, Microsoft, and these are typically your longer term stays. So, that's a partner which is really working in that marketplace. Urbane, Urban Markets, this is founded by some of the executives that used to run Wyndham. Great leadership team. Again, a very curated approach, looking at primarily urban markets. So again, not knowing where you're at. A few of those. Vacay My Way. Actually, I know this is really doing a pitch. Heidi, what is your elevator pitch on Vacay My Way?
Well, we are more host-friendly, no traveler service fees whatsoever throughout the channel. We're very focused on connecting the two, so unadulterated communication between host and guest. And it's very simple. It's entire properties, so with the kitchen involved, but we're not doing any shared spaces or shared housing.
Come talk to her for more information. And again, I'm not going to run through these. I'm going to just open it up to questions. But when you see this, I have also put in for a number of channels a quick 3-4 slides on them, typically about why you would want to work with them, their key value props. Again, I just won't go through every single one of them right now, but you'll see some of the ones I talked about here. So let's see, anybody I want to really specifically talk about? Emerald Coast by Owner, if you're down in that area, phenomenal group to work with. And that's it. So questions, open, and please raise your hand. And Rhea's going to give you the mic so that we can get this captured due to the recording so everybody can be heard. So any questions?
I have one. I don't know how well you.
Oh, got to get the mic.
What would be the benefit of using a channel manager like NextPax versus using LiveList?
So I think the first thing it boils down to is full service. Okay, Michael in the back said he doesn't want more employees, he doesn't want any employees. And so with LiveList, and I'm not intimately familiar with LiveList, I think Rhea would be a better one to ask some of those questions of. But it's really the full service aspect in that we are going to help you with every step of the way. We're there as an extension of your team to help you be successful on that channel. The integrations that LiveList has from working within LiveRez, yes, you have to come to our system a little bit, but now managing your taxes, your fees, the booking, the split out, the credit card, all being able to be done in LiveRez is, I'd say, about the same as LiveList. Yes, they're a little bit cheaper. We're a little more expensive. We charge 3%, so you're looking at a slightly higher cost, but everything that comes behind that with the account management, customer support, the additional technical side that we do, the access to get things fixed if something goes wrong is enormous. So that's one of the reasons that you would look at using us. Another would be, how do you represent your inventory? Okay. I mentioned earlier, each channel has different ways. Some of it's always going to be that key level, single unit, door level, whatever you want to call it, versus a cluster. Does everybody know what a cluster is? And not a cluster. Okay. The cluster is how we help you avoid those, right? I don't want to swear. I guess I'm on film. But a cluster is, let's take Booking.com, and you have a fairly closed, whether it's one building, two buildings, it's an area. Typically, the definition is a couple-minute walk or drive, but we can say this is, Celebration Homes by Jim, or whatever it may be. And so you can have that hotel, if you will, look and feel. I'm describing what it is, the neighbor or the buildings, and then each unit can be listed under there, still unique. So as a shopper, I'm going to see the details of that property, But rather than listing 50 individual listings out there with just the property name, it's not going to be recognized. 2-bedroom, hot tub, private pool, versus 5-bedroom home in Celebration. It's going to be more recognized, or Celebration homes, blah blah blah. So it really helps with your conversion. According to Expedia and Booking.com, if you're clustered, you have about a 40 to 50% higher conversion rate than single listings. All right? So the other one that really changes is unit type. Many of the people will have a building, they've got 30 units, 10 are identical ocean facing, 10 are identical facing the golf course, and 10 have the wonderful parking lot view. Rather than listing every one of those individually, we can roll up that inventory, so now you have a 2-bedroom ocean view, and we have a depth of 10 behind that. So you again have that more of a hotel style listing, and you're going to get a lot better conversion out of that. And we can take and do all of that for you, all the mapping in the background, we work with you that way. So again, this kind of comes into working with an account manager who's dedicated for working with you. That's our job. How are you successful on a channel? Live list, you're pretty much on your own. So long answer to your question, but good question.
I have another question.
I don't know if anyone uses NextPacks now, but with like that all-inclusive that you were talking about, like to come maybe, when you would list onto something else, say, hey, you're now listed through Hopper, is it now going to be a training piece on the NextPack side or the LiveRes side to actually know how to like operate that? Like reservation gets made and comes through.
Yeah, we would be doing that. Yep. When we are working with multiple channels, our goal is always before you go live that we have talked to you about that channel, what a booking will come in through, how would you cancel that, who's the merchant of record, different things like that. So under this agreement, like with Hopper, you would be the merchant of record. So we are going to send you the credit card, we're going to send you that type of information. We would want to train you, give you the heads up on that in advance. So again, we haven't launched that yet. That's why I'm asking the questions, and I'm trying to accelerate the ease of working with some of these channels that you may not have easy access to otherwise. And some that I think are going to be phenomenally successful. Mike.
What's that? Okay. So when I say I don't have employees, I have a family. My daughter-in-law does all the books and the accounting. I don't even get near that anymore. And so my biggest concern, I get all excited about doing this stuff. Am I going to overload her? Like I'm thinking about, we've got one property would be great on Plum. I think we should go to ski.com. We're a ski resort.
Right.
Right? And so far, we've only been Airbnb, Vrbo, on our own website. And I get concerned about the transition of bringing these new properties on. Like you're talking about the tax, collecting the taxes and doing that way. I know that, she does that. I don't even pay attention to what she does. I mean, I actually work for her now, So how much of a workload is it going to be to bring some of these new products on? I'm especially asking about the tax thing right now because I think that's something we need to do.
That is a fantastic question. And I don't know that I can give a complete answer right now because it would be a little bit new in running this type of an agreement. What I will say is that if you are integrated using the taxes and fees API, so we're consuming that, you're managing it, it's going to map identical to whatever you have. Come in, we're pushing that back in, it goes through the tax authorities, so your city, your state, your local, your whatever is breaking out, should be able to map into Live Trust just fine. So I think it would be the characteristics, probably the biggest difference you might see is who's the merchant of record or not. Should you be expecting a bank transfer of the payment, a virtual credit card, or are you the merchant? And so there's a couple characteristics which are, I think your accounting group would need to be aware of. But I think once you have these complete integration going, it should be pretty simple. That's my opinion. Until we start running them through, I won't be able to give you a hardcore answer.
To piggyback off the taxes, if you have like individual line items that we need to go over, pet fees, cleaning fees, damage waivers, whatever those may be, do we have to add the taxes to the price? So if the cleaning fee is $100 and my tax is 7%, do I have to say the cleaning fee is $107? Or does that break out separately?
Fantastic question. Okay, and the reason that many people are still using the tax or the fees in our system is so they can do that, so they can add that tax on and they send it out that way. So there's a couple things happening there. One is you can either still manage it in our system, which works. I don't like it because it's less efficient. You can create a fee in LiveRes that would include that already, and that pulls through to us, and then it would have it and it comes in. So at least you're doing it in LiveRes versus in our system. The other one is we have development work underway right now that will be able to automatically, you tell us through the API, this is a taxable fee, it's taxable by these percents. If the channel can handle that, we send it out as the two different data elements. If they can't, we then add it in automatically, so it's going to that channel to have $107. When it comes back, we deconstruct that and would send it back through the API. So the immediate one is it's not as good as it should be. There are ways to do that. Coming will be the ability to do that automated.
All right. And would you guys, is it like a lump sum tax, or would you be able to say like, okay, we have a 3% tax, a 4% tax, a 2.116
From what I
whatever
understand,
tax?
as long as you're using the tax authority, it should break it out into the appropriate amounts. Yep. Again, we have not launched that API. It should be going live in the next 2 weeks. But I am told that's how it'll happen. Okay?
Well, our onboarding is getting better with test reservations, so we can check the data before you're live, which is probably something. Hello. I oversee quite a bit of the onboarding here at NextPax, and I want to mention too, we have test reservation tools we can implement. So if you have a channel that looks tempting and you want to see what that looks like in the breakdown in LiveRes, maybe there's adjustments we want to make on either entity. We can see that in a test environment before you ever go live. And so we want to expand on that a lot more to make sure that's consistent before you start getting live reservations or dealing with any breakouts. So that is up and coming.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't need that. I got one here. I'll probably make things squeal if I take that. Great thing. Mike likes to keep me on track. I used to be the super hands-on, knew every answer, and thank goodness I'm no longer that guy. I have Mike that does that. And this is a tool we launched, was about 2 months ago, I think now.
2 months. Some of it's still in testing, but
Yeah.
most channels we can actually replicate in a test environment.
Yeah, so we basically simulate that booking coming from the channel. How is it going to interact? What's it going to look like? Does it price correctly? Do your fees come through correctly? All of that before you flip the switch to go onto the channel.
All right. And this might be a LiveRes question, but if you use NextPax and the reservation comes through, does the guest still have the ability to use the LiveStay app? No? Okay.
Yeah, I would have no idea on that answer. Okay?
So just to understand the integration process, because I know right now with LiveRes, say perhaps with Airbnb, not all the amenities will transfer through. And then there's also different rules with different branding, right? Or branding with these different channels, right, to some degree. So when you're talking about the integration and how it's you define and it's ones that you put in and it goes across the board, how does that translate with those two elements?
Sure. So each one of these channels, let's say Airbnb and Vrbo, Booking.com, we're pulling your data over as it exists. We're getting everything there. Each one of those channels has their own settings and their own criteria that you have to select. So we have an integration form that we have you complete, and then we configure those on our side, and that's what is going to push forward. So then anything coming in, if it was going to Vrbo or Airbnb or wherever, is going to pick up those policies and that branding and whatever the case may be. Now, by the way, NextPax will never be visible. There is one case across the globe where we're visible, and that is if you have less than 50 properties on Google Vacation Rentals, you'll see an icon in the vacation rental search, but as soon as it goes to the property page, it's now 100% your branding and everything else. So, and back to your question, things are at a channel level when you integrate that, but many of the channels now accept property level, and so we can also adjust a property level. For instance, Booking.com may have 50% due at time of booking, balance due 30 days. but you have one that you need 100% due at time of booking, we can actually configure that at a property level now.
Gotcha.
Whereas pretty much everything is at a channel level. Some other things like with Airbnb, we have the ability to have one account, or excuse me, one thing in LiveRes. And by the way, we've not handled Airbnb for LiveRes in the past. But you can have multiple Airbnb accounts because we have a lot of customers who, will have places in one city, different city, different brand. And so they are able to work with that within our platform. And we're bringing that same function up with other channels as well. So you might be able to have multiple Booking.com accounts. Now that one isn't in place, Airbnb is. The other thing that we have launched is a unified messaging capabilities that will pull in from Booking shortly because they're still finishing that API. Vrbo, they're finishing that. But Airbnb now. What we're trying to do is any channel that has a messaging API to consolidate that, and then we can push it into your CRM, your email box, wherever you like. We're using the AI to address a lot of the messages that are there. So
Good, great.
this is where some of the advantages of having clients that, like Novasol, 50,000 properties. The max you can have on Airbnb is 1,000 properties in one account. So they have like 30 accounts, and can you imagine trying to manage the communication with 30 different accounts versus sucking that into one group, applying logic to it and AI, and then just sending those which really need the human intervention to somebody. So these are a lot of the tools that once developed, they drive down, to every customer that we have. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you have any other questions, we're over there at the booth. I'm easily recognizable. You can grab my card, you can reach out to me. And Catherine would be the other good one to talk to. You can talk to Mike, but I don't want you to take his information because I want him back on operational things. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.